It has been a long journey for the survivors and the victims' families who are now getting their day in court, waiting for accountability. Some families no longer want case updates as they're trying to move past this tragedy. So joining me to discuss exactly that is psychologist Dr. Meagan Houston. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you this morning?
Doing well. So, really tragic event that affected us here in Houston and obviously the Santa Fe area. But we want to talk to you about the coping mechanisms that you would advise for victims and their family members after they try to move forward after something so heinous.
In the aftermath of the 2018 Santa Fe shooting, the victims and their families really have endured unimaginable pain and suffering. And the impacts of such a tragic event extend far beyond the initial incident. Like you said, it's been 6 years. And this really creates a ripple effect of trauma that can last years or even a lifetime. One aspect that muddies the grieving process for those affected by violent crimes is what we call complicated grief. And complicated grief is a type of mourning that is prolonged, is intense, and can interfere with your ability to resume your daily life. And it's a normal response to an abnormal situation. And those that grapple with complicated grief may experience persistent feelings of disbelief, anger, guilt, or even a sense of emptiness. And the trauma of their shooting can re-trigger these emotions, making it exceptionally difficult for them to find some closure and peace. Navigating a life after experiencing a heinous crime like this can be very challenging and complex. And so some coping mechanisms that could be helpful, for one, is going to be to seek professional support. We always want to encourage people to seek help from mental health professionals such as psychologists or counselors who are experienced in trauma and grief counseling. These professionals can provide you with a safe space to process emotions, develop coping strategies, and really work through the impact of a crime. Joining support groups is another great way to cope. When we join a support group, it connects us with other people who've experienced similar traumas to us, and it can be incredibly validating and comforting. Support groups offer a sense of community and understanding and shared experiences that help you feel less alone in what you're dealing with. We also want to encourage people to express emotions in healthy ways, whether that's through journaling or creative outlets like art or music, and open conversations with loved ones. Because when we bottle up emotions, it can intensify feelings of distress and really hinder the healing process. And we want to encourage you to focus on small steps. Moving forward after a heinous crime is a gradual and slow process. And it's really important to acknowledge and celebrate even the small victories along the way. So we want to encourage you to take one day at a time and really be gentle with yourself as you navigate the healing journey.
So going back to how some of these family members have said that they do not want to get updates on this case, then is that something that you would recommend? Do you think that's a healthy way to cope?
I think that, if it's not something that you can really do a whole lot about, it's not necessarily unhealthy. If you're constantly hearing concerns, or you're hearing issues, or you're hearing the drama around it, it's going to be re-triggering for you. So if getting updates isn't going to be helpful, if nothing has changed, if you're not moving forward, then it can definitely continue to complicate your grief.
Yeah, and some of the family members feel like there's not been much accountability in this case. That happens a lot in tragic events where people sometimes feel betrayed by the justice system. How would you recommend that they cope in a situation like that where they feel like nobody's been able to help bring them justice?
Well, firstly, it's important to validate those feelings of frustration, anger, and betrayal. I mean, those are natural and justified. And again, we want to engage in therapy, especially some type of trauma-informed therapy, and join support groups. Again, having that safe space to process these complex emotions and to find solidarity will help with some of this grief. And we want to encourage people to engage in constructive action. So try to channel these feelings of injustice into advocacy or activism. Joining or forming advocacy groups can really be empowering and can help push for policy changings. And consulting with legal professionals can also provide a sense of control in a helpless type of situation, and focus on what can be controlled. It may seem like something very small, but trying to maintain a regular routine, set small achievable goals, and engaging in meaningful activities can provide some type of break from chronic stress like this.
Mm-hmm. What would we expect that some of these families are going through who had to go to Austin, they had to get a law passed just to see their loved ones' autopsies? I mean, when you have to go through that many layers of the justice system, fighting over here to get this and then still having to go to the trial to see this, what would you expect life is like for them?
Definitely invoke intense feelings of anger, frustration, and helplessness. And having to fight for basic information about your loved one can lead to feelings of betrayal or distrust toward the system, exacerbating their grief. I think that it significantly compounds their trauma. And again, leading to that complicated grief where your normal grieving process is disrupted because you've got these prolonged additional stressors where you're having to fight to gather information or feeling like you have to fight for justice for your loved one. So this is very difficult.
Are there agencies that can help with victims of feeling like that? Are there agencies that can help with the family members specifically in Santa Fe? Do you know of any?
Well, I mean, there's several local resources and national resources, such as the National Center for Victims of Crime, the Victim Connect Resource Center. There is NOVA, which is the National Organization of Victim Assistance and Compassionate Friends for Bereaved Parents, which is also a national organization, and POMC, which stands for Parents of Murdered Children. And if you want more about these resources, I'd be more than happy to share that with you and your viewers.
Yeah, well, we will clip this interview, so if somebody missed it, they can go back and watch it again on clicktohouston.com. Dr. Meagan Houston, we appreciate your time this morning. Thank you for joining me.